Right, so today we are going to be looking at a number of cases of petty revenge and deciding whether the perpetrators should be found innocent on account of their acts of vengeance being totally justifiable and proportionate, or guilty on account of the retaliation being excessive and inexcusable. You've seen me as both the prosecution and the defense in George Clarke's infamous YouTuber court, but now I'm the judge. So court is now in session. Okay, first up, what is your most memorable story of petty revenge? I lived in an apartment with a roommate. We had neighbours who would throw crazy parties pretty frequently, oftentimes during the week. One day, my roommate, who had to be awake early, had enough and decided to piss on a metal pizza pan and stick it in the freezer. After a crazy party, he pulled the pan out and flipped it upside down, giving him a frozen disc of piss. He then slid that disc underneath their door where it would melt on their fully carpeted entryway. We woke up to them shouting at the people who crashed there about who pissed on the floor and what the hell was wrong with them. I wish I could say they toned down their parties, but they didn't and eventually got evicted. Okay, so on the face of it, the neighbours are doing something pretty disrespectful. Frequent parties is bad enough, but during the week, not okay. I will say I would like to know if these people had asked their neighbours before to tone it down. If they had gone up, left a note, knocked on the door and just been like, hey, we live downstairs, we work during the week, we can hear you partying. Do you mind turning it down or having less frequent parties or maybe just having less people there so there's less noise? I think then if they've taken those reasonable steps to begin with and the neighbours continue disrespecting them, this is proportionate. If I have to listen to your shitty music, you've got to deal with a pissy floor. And I've also just got to know that is genius. Now, I know the intro sounds way better if we pitch it as innocent versus guilty, but I have got a law degree, and if I've learned one thing, it's that we've got to find the defendant not guilty.
Can I really rock?
That's right, by the way, I actually do have a law degree. 3 years at Durham Law School, a year of qualifying exams, and a seat at a US law firm in the city of London. And it all comes down to this. Time well spent. All right, next, quick emetophobia warning for this one. My husband, as a small child in school, was sick and the teacher wouldn't let him go to the bathroom to throw up. So he went to her desk where she was sitting and threw up all over that instead. I mean, your husband might be the one on trial here, but we need to get this teacher in. How have you got a little kid saying to you, I'm going to be sick, can I go to the toilet? And you just go, no. Not only did this happen to me all the time as a kid when I needed the toilet, you'd be like, excuse me, miss, can I go to the bathroom? And they'd be like, no, you had recess an hour ago, you should have gone then. You're like, well, I didn't need the toilet then, I need it now. I drank a big bottle of water at recess, that's why I need the toilet. But in fact, something very similar to this happened to me too. I remember I must have been about 6 years old and I was sat there at my desk and I've been feeling a bit ill all day. But at one point I just felt myself about to be sick and I stood up and threw up in my mouth, and luckily there was the perfect amount where it didn't burst out. And I was just stood there going, oh my God. And my teacher goes, Arthur, sit down. And for whatever reason, I decided to swallow it. I genuinely was just like, what else am I supposed to do? Just spit it on the table? No, so I swallowed it all, felt awful. Then asked to go to the toilet and my teacher said no. And so later on, thankfully, I could tell when I was about to be sick. My mouth started salivating and I was like, miss, I need to be sick. They let me go, thankfully. And I was there and I was sick. For some reason, I just decided to not tell anyone. And throughout the day, I kept going to the bathroom to be sick. And then when my mum picked me up at the end of the day, she asked me how my day was going. And I was like, yeah, I've been sick all day. And she was like, oh yeah, of course you have. Because I guess she was like, if you had been being sick all day, teacher would have said something, would have picked you up. This is clearly an exaggeration. But then I was like, no, mum, seriously, pull over now. She pulled over and I was sick. And she was like, why the hell did you not tell anyone? But I digress. That was a bit of a long tangent. I don't think judges usually trauma dump like that mid-case, but it was relevant to the facts. If I'd asked my teacher on that day to go to the bathroom because I needed to be sick and they said no, I would have been like, right, on your desk be it. So, with Puppy Poet's husband on trial here for an overreaction, I'm going to find him not guilty. And you know what? Whilst I'm here, I'm going to award the kid 50 aura points because that is an epic power move. First and last judge to probably ever say that.
Are you trying to sound like a fool?
All right, next. Had a shitty landlord once. Refused to fix windows that were broken before I moved in. Basically just a shithole owned by a slumlord. Took him to small claims court for a number of reasons. Ended up getting my next 6 months paid for at my next apartment. There was a small trapdoor in the closet floor to access shut-off valves for the plumbing. So before I moved out, I got scrap meat from a local butcher, stuff they can't sell, and placed it in the trapdoor. A few months later, the place gets condemned due to vermin infestation and gets torn down. This was also before cell phones. punk. So a couple of times I got my female friend to call his house when I knew he wasn't home. His wife would answer, my friend would ask for him and act nervous and hang up. Alright, so we've got 2 counts of petty revenge in this one. Now this one, I'm thinking, is more of a difficult decision than before. The landlord clearly had this coming, and I'm glad to see that a bad landlord is suffering with a difficult tenant. There are too many criminal landlords out there that don't get what's coming to them. However, the defendant in this case has already had 6 months' rent paid to them. But they then went a step further and committed vandalism, criminal damage, a nuisance, and then went even further and caused a rift in the landlord's marriage. Now, I will say that just because it's a crime, this person is not necessarily guilty. Arguably, the pee under the door was also criminal damage. However, that was genius and untraceable. Here, the defendant was clearly the person in the property before the meat was left there. The landlord could trace this back to them and sue them for damages. And it could end up being a criminal case. And although this landlord is, by all accounts, a terrible person, his innocent wife may be being misled as to the true nature of their relationship. Revenge must be carried out against the guilty party alone and must not come with such great risks. And it is therefore with regret that I find this defendant guilty of reckless and disproportionate revenge. Alright, next. My brother did something to annoy his then girlfriend, so she took the labels off all his canned food / tins in the cupboard. Are you opening a tin of beans or a tin of tomato sauce? Or cat food? Kinda hilarious. I must say I agree with the final statement, although it really depends on what exactly he did to annoy her. It sounds like something short term has been punished with something very long term. I have tins in my cupboard that have been there for 5 years. Also, imagine going to make a delightful, delicious tuna pasta bake. You open it up, that's right, it's tuna. You mix it in, you bake it, you serve to your friends and family, and then you realise. You look into the corner of your room and your cat's eyes are widening at you. That's my fucking dinner! But it's too late. Everyone's at least 5 mouthfuls in and you've committed. So there are just years of potential diabolical mix-ups on the agenda here. Also, potential food waste. What if you open it up, you realise it's cat food, cat's already got a full bowl of food right there, you throw it away. And you know what? As a British man, I know I'm not supposed to get emotional and allow my personal feelings to get involved here, but it's my court, my rules. You do not mess with any stage of a man's beans on toast. If you're from any other country and you haven't tried it yet, please, it sounds terrible, it's delicious. And so as hilarious as this revenge may be, I'm going to have to find the defendant guilty. It's disproportionate in length, it's potentially wasteful, and it's disrespectful to the British. Alright, next. My brother used to leave butlin on the toilet seat. Is butlin a thing? Are you not washing frequently enough for it to not gather up like that? I hereby order him to wash his ass more frequently. Let's proceed. So there would be a line of grossness in the spot where your butt crack is on the toilet seat. I was constantly telling him to wipe it off, and he never would. So I started using his toothbrush to clean it up and never told him. It went on for like a year. This revenge is diabolically gross and unhygienic. But so is the action of leaving butt fluff or lint or whatever it might have been on the toilet seat. And Mr. Fingerbottom, you clearly took reasonable steps to try and address the issue before your hand was forced. Your brother wasn't cleaning his butt, he was leaving a mess from his butt. And he was warned about it. I fear he left you with no other choice. I hereby clear you of any wrongdoing. Not guilty.
Miss Miller.
Be respectful.
Sorry.
Although, I really want to find out why it stopped after a year. Did he ever find out? It pains me to not know. Just quickly, before we move on to the next case, I just want to say, you can be a judge too today. That's right, if you're enjoying this video, you rate the fact that I've put this silly outfit on, and you want to come witness this court's drama again in future, please do consider subscribing down below. I'm having a great time making this video. I really hope you guys are having a great time watching it, and if you are, I'd really appreciate it if you would hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. So yeah, thank you very much if you've just hit subscribed or you're already subscribed. Hope you're enjoying the video regardless. Now let's get back to it. All right, next. So my mother's roommate's son stole the ring that my great-grandmother gave to her and sold it. Right, well, bring him to my court for theft then. Apparently, he didn't care, and his mother didn't care that he did it. Bring her in for terrible parenting too. Is it a crime? I can make it one. So I found his condom stash and fixed them. His girlfriend is now several months pregnant. This is diabolical work. I fear we're gonna have to bring up the landlord precedent here. Why is the girlfriend a victim in this? I agree, the son did something wrong. The mother did something wrong as well for being the mother and not doing anything about it, depending on how old the son is. But his poor girlfriend could have realised, and I'm sure she would have, at some point, that she was dating a loser and left him before she was bound to him by flesh. As in, their parents for life. She can obviously leave anytime she wants still. But either way, the fact that she is now tied to this loser as a co-parent is a tragedy. Her life, her livelihood, her job, her education prospects, her body, all significantly affected by this decision that had nothing to do with her. She was having protected sex. She consented to that. She did not consent to having a baby. By all means, take revenge on the son. What he did was a terrible thing, a crime. Get the police involved. Maybe even go for some genius petty revenge off the books. But whatever you do, the bodily autonomy of an innocent victim shall not be infringed in my court. Guilty! As a judge's note on this case as well, I want to say, I know I'm just a bit silly, and this is just a Reddit video, but that is a very serious topic. That is a very serious violation of the girlfriend's bodily autonomy, and arguably the son's. That is the kind of case you actually might expect to see in a criminal law class, because potential offences against the person, potential sexual offences, it's just a very serious case of profound ethical violations and a potential medley of crimes. So I just wanted to make sure that even in a silly video, a serious topic deserves serious respect. But with that hopefully manifestly clear, let's move on to the next one. All right, next. My ex-girlfriend cheated on me with another guy in my bed, in my flat. Brutal. So I literally froze my poop. Yes, I took a poop on a sheet of Glad wrap and put it in the freezer. Then while she was at work, I went over to her apartment with my spare key and walked through her apartment, grating my frozen turd with a cheese grater all throughout her house, over every square inch of carpet. Hell, I even put a shard of it in her toothbrush. I think you can imagine what happened when she got home. That is grim. That must have stank. You know what smells worse? Infidelity. And the disrespect to do it in his bed and flat. Her actions constitute a violation and a disrespect of the highest order. She violated the sanctity of your apartment, and you did the same to her. Proportionate, justified, not guilty. Just make sure you buy yourself a new cheese grater. All right, next. At my old workplace, there was a woman who would eat other people's food without their consent. The food was stored in the company refrigerator. A company food thief. An evil class of people I know all too well. She ate mine and I caught her. I got pissed. Other people were pissed when they found out she was also eating their food. Revenge. So every day after I caught her, some of my co-workers and I would buy a dozen donuts in the morning. We would offer her a donut first. Sure, take 2, 3, there's plenty. She would take 2 or 3. Shock!
Donuts.
We brought candy and left them in a bowl close to her desk. She couldn't help herself. Her weight ballooned to unhealthy proportions. Last I heard, she now has health issues related to bariatrics. Now this might be one of the easiest cases we're ever going to face. She, with fully informed consent, ate that food. I thought you were going to be filling those donuts with your own kind of jam, your own kind of cream filling, if you catch my drift. I thought you were going to put maybe a condom full of yogurt in there, make her think one thing, but it's actually the other, as in your own food that she was stealing rather than the donut you were giving her.
What?
But no, you offered her something, said what it was, and you weren't deceiving her. Though part of me does feel for her. I know some people struggle with their weight, struggle with managing their diet. My sympathy dries up when theft is in the equation. I mean, hopefully the balloon deflates. Hopefully she rediscovers her health. And while she's at it, discovers some healthy respect for her co-workers' belongings. But I fear she got exactly what was coming to her and what she could have seen from a mile and a billion donuts away. Not guilty.
Don't tell me how to eat donuts.
All right, next. I had a boss 7 to 8 years ago whom I hated. She was the fakest and most entitled person I'd ever met. One day, she decided that she didn't like the smell of microwave popcorn, so she waved her magic office wand and had it banned. Fast forward a month or so, I was browsing Amazon and found one of those USB sticks that emits a smell when plugged in. I did not know those existed. The smell of buttered popcorn. What? I guess it would just be like an electronic diffuser. That makes sense. Cool though. I bought it, plugged it into the back of her computer, and she had the sweet smell of Pop Secret in her office for 6 months. She complained almost every day. It's the sweetest revenge I've ever tasted. That is hilarious and genius, and I've learned something new. Didn't get a lot of details into why she was a terrible boss. I mean, she was fake and entitled. Some examples would have been nice. But the smell of popcorn, harmful to no one, hilarious to everyone, except from the boss. I thoroughly enjoyed that, and it sounds like you did too. Justified, proportionate, not guilty. Alright, next. I called the bakery I used to work at and asked for my boss/owner, who verbally berated me for 6 months for a super complex cake order. After wasting about 30 minutes of her time, I told her I wanted custom lettering on the cake. I then told her I wanted it to say, "I reported you to the IRS for payroll tax fraud." Smiley emoji. They sold their business about 3 months ago. Another pretty easy decision. We've got an evil person, a villain in the story, who needs justice served upon their heads. They verbally berated their poor employee for months on end. And in return, they got a threat. Not a threat of violence or a threat of a crime, but a threat to expose the crime that they've been committing the whole time. Against the US government, nonetheless. The biggest, sweetest dollop of justice I could ever imagine. Not guilty. And on that delicious end, this court is now adjourned. If you enjoyed your time here today at Arthur's Court, please do consider subscribing down below so the next time we're here, you won't miss it. Plus, it's free. It only takes a second. I'd really appreciate it. And it would give me something to show for all of those years at law school. Maybe if I hit 1 million subscribers one day, my parents will be proud of me. But either way, hope you've enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching. And hopefully, I'll see you on the next one. Bye.